We're going to start this class on democratization by looking at the state and democracy. What is the point of the state? And to what degree are democracies or non-democracies best at performing state functions? Today we're going to talk about the evolution of the state. We'll look at democracies and non-democracies in the context of state evolution. Then we're going to go into non-democracies in more depth, looking at different types of non-democracies. They're not all the same. And then we'll talk a little bit more about what we mean by democracy, because not all democracies are the same as well. Keep in mind as we go through this that there's going to be some review if you've taken Poly 260, the Introduction to Comparative Politics class, but I highly suggest that you go through this again for whatever parts are review, since we'll be using the material in different ways in this class. So we'll start with the origins of the state. And the origins of the state were protection. Humans historically organized in groups for protection. The nature of protection gradually changes, though, as external threats give way to internal threats. And then the state begins to regulate society more generally, for example, protecting the exploited over the exploiters. So we can start way back when. Humans have long needed external protection, but the nature of the external threats has changed over time. So protection during the hunter-gatherer stage was one thing. So here we are, we were all hairy. I'm still a little hairy. But we were all hairy, and we threw stones at big mammoths and things like that. But we were all by ourselves, and all the others were external threats. It wasn't just the mammoth that was a threat. It was these other guys who were throwing these, I don't know, torches or doing whatever they're doing to the mammoth, because they could come over and do that to us as well. So everything, this was all about external threats. And we depended on ourselves, our family, our kinship network, so extended family, whatever it was that created our little group. But then things changed. You had also a different sort of protection that took place under sedentary conditions, when territory became much more important. And here you have different groups of people who are coming together and defending each other from outside groups. And so this is more where you move from the familial unit to these larger clan structures or these kinship networks, even more extended networks than what we were talking about here. So here we could be talking about maybe grandparents, uncles and aunts, and here we can move into cousins and their families and all that. And so the nature of protection changes, and we begin to create walls. Eventually, as we create these walls, we move from these sort of agrarian holdings to cities, right? And in cities, things begin to change even more because we've got differentiation. Trade settlements create room for specialization. So I do one thing. I provide food, right? I sell tomatoes. The woman over there provides shelter. She rents out apartments. The guy over there provides luxuries like decorations, jewelry, maybe beer, whatever it is. The problem here is that this leads to increased inequality. My food or her jewelry or his jewelry is worth more than her art, for example, which leads to an increased need for mechanisms to regulate societal relations. So we're no longer talking about just protection from outsiders, like we were talking about here. Now we've got different people occupying different social strata, and with these new social strata come jealousies. It becomes the haves versus the have-nots, and you need greater internal protection. More riches means more opportunities for theft from within and without as well. And so there are critical questions about societal relations more generally. What's fair? Who has the right to do what? And the state begins to tackle these questions as it evolves from a position of providing external security to one of providing internal security. And later, as it develops, organizations are established to regulate these intra-societal relations. They create rules and norms, and they enforce these rules and norms. They provide public goods. Various public goods are indivisible, non-excludable benefits. They're things that have excessive costs for most individuals to do on their own, but they're things that we all need. A great example of a public good is a road. I can't create a road myself. I can't maintain a road, but I need that. And so the state provides these public goods. We all chip in a little bit, and then the state provides these public goods. So many of these goods facilitate intra and intersocietal trade and cooperation, which then is good for the state because the state gains through taxes. It gains more for itself by facilitating these relations. As we have more trade, there's more turnover, and the state gets to tax each transaction. Okay, so we'll stop there, and then we'll go into why we obey in just a moment.